At least he wasn't a super racist. I say that like it's an accomplishment to not be a super racist. What's up, everyone? It's your boy Floz MG, and welcome back to another episode of Tear Up. This time we're going to be ranking Supes from the Boys Part 3! Yes, I know we've done 2 of these already. I don't care. There's so many to go over! This time it's mainly going to be going over Supes that were brought in like Seasons 3 and 4. But enough talking, let's just get right into it. The rankings for this video are as follows. God Tier, The Boys, Oi, Circle 7, and Cancelled. Like I said previously, you cannot have a The Boys Soup tier list without having Oi as one of the goddamn tiers. You just can't do it. And first up on this list, we have Blue Hawk. A soup that was mainly focused on by A-Train because he's had a number of casualties in black neighborhoods, which he tends to patrol far more frequently than white neighborhoods. There's a little bit of underlying racism there. And just like the whole look of this guy, it screams, White Lives Matter! Soup Lives Matter! Fucking hell. Like, motherfuckers even carrying a goddamn baton! What more proof do you need? Either way, we're getting off track. His powers, I believe, it's just like increased strength and durability. He's not really fast, he can't fly, can't do much of anything else like that. He's just stronger and more durable, I think. So with having some rather lackluster powers, on top of being a horrific racist, I'm gonna put him down in Cancelled. Yes, I do not approve of his ways in the slightest. Next up we have Crimson Countess, who was one of the members of the superhero group Payback from way back in the day. That was Soldier Boy's group. But they eventually betrayed Soldier Boy in order to just get rid of him. Which, I mean, I don't blame them. Either way, Crimson Countess's powers, I don't think she can fly. I do know that she's able to create fireballs from her fist, which she used to kind of obliterate a Homelander mascot at Vaultland. She also is a singer, is very obsessed with chimpanzees, and is a cam whore? So many different things. And like I've said before, and I know this bitch isn't natural, but she's ruining redheads for me. And I mean, maybe she can fly, I can't remember completely. I do know for a fact that she can shoot fireballs from her fist. And that, in my opinion, is a pretty good power. But I do not think it's good enough to be brought into God tier. So I think with that, I'm just going to put her down into the boys. Bring her down a little bit, because on account of her being crazy. Next up, we have Gunpowder, who was also a member of Payback back in the day, and essentially Soldier Boy's sidekick. Now, I also don't believe he had any, super, great abilities. Similar to Blue Hawk, I think he just had, increased strength and durability. But he did have an obsession with firearms. To a point where when he was on a battlefield, he did mow down a good number of Russians as well as a good number of American troops. He just couldn't control himself. Well, not exactly himself as much as the gun. But yeah, things just got out of hand. And ultimately, this guy got offed by Billy Butcher when Billy was on Temp V. If Temp V is enough to off this motherfucker, then yeah, couldn't have been that durable. So again, abilities similar to Blue Hawk, but at least he's not an obsessive super racist. So I think we're gonna go ahead and put him down in Circle 7. Just a step above Blue Hawk, the super racist. Next up we have Hugh Campbell Sr. This one was really sad. Hugh Campbell Sr. is Huey's father. He was admitted to the hospital after suffering a stroke. Tried to reach Huey, they couldn't reach Huey. But after Huey learned what happened, he was really scared and didn't want to lose his dad. So he initially brought some Compound V to try and save him. He ended up not using it. His mother instead took the V and used it on Hugh herself. And he did get powers, but because he was sickly, it impacted him very negatively. But the power that Hugh got, I believe the best way to word it is that he was able to phase through solid objects. However, like, again, when he's in phase, he can go through everything. But when he comes out of phase, he pretty much takes the place of whatever he's in. So, like, say he was to phase through this table and he stopped right in the middle of it. There would be a Hugh-width shaped hole in this table. The way I figured that out is when he phased into another patient in the hospital and pretty much took out their entire abdomen. It's definitely a good power of evasion. But again, at the same time, because he had just suffered a stroke before all of this, yeah, he also was losing his memory and was kind of going berserk. And eventually the saddest scene of all is when Huey had to put his father to sleep. Very humanely, but still very sad. Enough talking about that. I'm not crying, you are. I think we're going to go ahead and put Hugh Campbell up in Oi. Very mid, because the powers themselves don't do much, if that makes any sense. Next up we have Mindstorm, who again was also a member of Payback. His powers, I'm not quite sure exactly what they are. I know they definitely involve the brain and the mind and everything. And unlike Mesmer, I don't know if he can read minds. He might be able to read minds, but he was able to put people into like a sleeping nightmare state, which is what he did to Billy Butcher. Mostly just by looking him in the eyes. That might actually put Mindstorm like one step above Mesmer, because Mesmer needed to make direct contact with them to read their mind. Mindstorm just had to look him in the eyes. It is a really good power, so you know what? Screw it. I actually am going to put it up in God tier. Because again, you don't even need to make contact with the person. Next up, we have a Supe named Splinter. I'm going to be honest, I initially thought his name was Splitter because, like, he splits apart into multiple versions of himself. He was, like, Firecracker's biggest fan, friend, and kind of a stalker-obsessive type of person as well. And the way we learned of his powers was when Frenchie and Kimiko kind of walked in on him in, like, a sauna, eating his ass, while he was eating his own ass, while he was eating his own ass, while he was eating his own ass, while he was jacking it to a picture of Firecracker. That's one way to learn someone's abilities. And get horrendous pink eye. That's the thing, Splinter can constantly split apart, making various copies of himself. However, if the Prime dies, then so do all the other copies, which is what we learned when they killed the Prime. I probably should have said before, this video is definitely going to contain spoilers, so if you don't want to know any spoilers, click off the damn video. And watch the show The Boys on Amazon Prime. Not sponsored, by the way. They really should sponsor me. I think it's a decent power because, I mean, strength in numbers. However, again, if you take away the Prime, the numbers mean absolutely nothing. So I think I'm going to go ahead and put that at mid. Because that one hindrance can make quite the difference. Next up, we have Supersonic. Supersonic was a love interest of Starlight back before the show's beginning. They were like in this church youth group, they dated a little bit, they did the deed without anyone knowing because they're sneaky. And Supersonic was actually originally part of an all-Supe boy band, I don't remember what the name was, but eventually later on in life, he won a show and was chosen as the new member of the Seven. I should probably get into what his powers is, because I had to read up on this because in the show I couldn't figure it out. But I guess apparently his power is like supersonic claps. He claps and it creates supersonic vibrations that could probably shatter this window. I don't think he has any sort of increased durability. I don't know if he really has super strength. I just know those supersonic claps are probably why he has the name Supersonic. Plus, he was also horrifically brutalized by Homelander as a warning to Starlight. Bro's death was used as a fucking warning. Like, despite having like super powered sonic claps, I think I need to put him down in Circle 7. Which in all fairness, he was part of the 7 for just a wee little bit. But I mean, that power is not going to do much. Next up, we have Swatto, who was yet another member of Payback. Swatto could grow bug-like wings and could fly around. I don't think he necessarily had any like super durability or anything like that. But when he was flying around on the battlefield, he had a freaking like missile or rocket launcher honed in on him, and he pretty much got blown to smithereens in midair. Flew around like a bug, got squashed like a bug. Durability, very shit. Overall, he was just a really shit soup, so I think I want to put him down and cancel with Blue Hawk. At least he wasn't a super racist. I say that like it's an accomplishment to not be a super racist. Oh yeah, speaking of which, next up we have Tech Knight. Speaking of super racist, this is one of them. Now, if you remember Blind Spot from the previous one, he got like super hearing despite being blind. Tech Knight, I think, has super senses, because from what I've seen in the show, he has super hearing, super sight maybe, super scent. I don't really know how you can do like super touch or super taste. So it's really just super hearing and super scent, I believe. That's really the main ones. Also super sight. He can use that to see if someone's heart rate is elevated, to tell if they're lying or anything like that. He is also a heavy masochist, and I don't say that lightly at all. He enjoys pain. And his whole like Tech Knight cave is a full-on sex dungeon. It's demented. So with some honestly lackluster powers and again being a super racist, I have to put him down and canceled. I've said it so many times that I want to make Super Racist the title, but I can't do that. Next up, we have Termite. Termite is a soup that can shrink himself and then grow back to his original size. One of the biggest examples we've seen of this ability and most destructive, when he shrinks himself down so small, he goes into his lover's dick tip and goes around and basically like stimulates the inside of the dick tip within the urethra. I saw that's supposed to be pleasurable. Any man who has seen that scene felt so uncomfortable. I can guarantee you. But that's somehow not the worst part. While he was within the dick, he started to get very sniffly, and eventually he sneezed, instantly growing back to his original size, completely taking out the bottom half of his at the time lover. What the fuck? And then later on in season 3, when he was at the gigantic superhero orgy known as Herogasm, yes, that's an actual thing in the show. And after a certain incident happened, he was shrunk down, very vulnerable. He was just stepped on by Homelander and killed instantly. And actually, now that I think about it, while he's very tiny, he's able to like keep his strength because he was able to throw people around. And that was pretty good. So that's the only thing that saved him from being canceled. Otherwise, I'm putting him in the Circle 7. Despite ripping a man's dick to smithereens. I can still feel it. Next up, we have the TNT Twins, the final 2 members of Payback. How these two's powers work is when they join hands, they can create an explosive blast from their free hands. But the thing is, they can only do it whilst making contact with each other. So pretty much on their own, they're essentially useless. But when together, pretty devastating, honestly. And when we learn about these two in modern days, they were the ones who were running Herogasm. I think both of them on their own individually, I'd put them both in canceled. However, their power together does make them significantly better, so I'm going to go ahead and put them up in the boys. Not God tier, though. I don't think they're really worthy of that. Next up, we have the V'd up farm animals that were encountered in Season 4. These fucks were horrifying. V'd up chickens, V'd up bull, V'd up sheep, V'd up everything. Like 5 V'd up sheep were enough to rip a bull to shreds, and these fuckers can fly. They were also the first super beings that the virus was ever tested out on, and it was effective against them. But without the virus, they are horrifying. So much so that I'm not even going to waste any more time. I'm putting them up in God tier, because they're terrifying. If you saw one of these in real life, you would just faint. No. You wouldn't even faint. You would be ripped to shreds before you even realized what you were looking at. The powers are terrifying. Speaking of terrifying powers, next up we have Victoria Newman. Victoria Newman was a congresswoman who eventually became VP of the United States, which essentially is a big corporation. We first saw her abilities in Season 2 without even knowing it was her until the end of Season 2, where she was originally known as like a head popper, where if she looked at someone, she can make their head just explode. But upon the first episode of Season 3, we learned that it's not just their head. If she looks at any part of someone's body, she can make that specific part explode, or just the entire body explode. So you never want to fucking cross her, because she can take away your life in a fucking instant. So I think with that very terrifying power, we're going to save our lives and put her up in God tier. With the other terrifying powers, please don't come after me. Next up, we have this absolute freak named Webweaver, which I guess is this universe's iteration of Spider-Man, but it's a very shitty Spider-Man considering that he literally has a web hole above his ass crack, which was creepy to witness, and disgusting, honestly. And we learned that when he gets very nervous, web fluid just shoots out continuously. Blech. That scene was not... I really shouldn't have eaten during that scene. We also learned that he's a heavy addict. And I mean a heavy addict of almost every drug known to man. There probably wasn't anything he wasn't on. Much like Frenchie. And this guy was actually invited to be Tech Knight's sidekick in his whole sex dungeon BDSM setup. Again, that scene was also not fun to watch. But as a Supe himself and his powers, they're very bad, so I really feel like I have to put it in canceled. Funny how right now the only ones in canceled are the super racist and the super BDSM masochists. And last up on this list we have Zoe Newman. Zoe was Victoria Newman's daughter, who Victoria shot her up with Compound V. I still don't know why. She said it was to like keep her safe. I don't know if it was to like keep her safe from Homelander and his plans or everything, but the powers that Zoe got were fucking tendrils that came out of her mouth. This is a horrific sight. And I'm definitely not going to say her specifically because she's a fucking child. But imagine someone with these abilities going down on you. You say something to piss her off. Bye-bye, very fragile part of the man. Taken away by things that kind of look like it if you squint very hard. Point is, she got V'd up and her superpower was mouth dicks. I really shouldn't say that considering she's a child. It's a very terrifying power and you really don't want to cross her. So, but realistically, she's innocent in all of this. So, I kind of have to put her up in the boys. Not God tier, though. Her mom can keep that slot. And I think we're going to go ahead and end this off right here. I've been Floz MG. This has been Rankin' Supes from the Boys Part 3. And I can't wait to see you all in the next video. Bye!